For wind-pollinated plants such as the Australian Calistris and the Casuarina, the stigma of the plant is often quite feathery, which increases the surface area and improves the chance of pollen landing on the plant. Also common amongst these plants is that the stamens are found dangling beyond the rest of the flower, which increases the plant's exposure to wind. Wind-pollinated plants are often grouped in large numbers, minimizing the distance that pollen must travel. They are also very light pollen grain, so that the pollen can easily travel with the wind. Other plants are pollinated by insects which act as pollen carriers. They may have colourful petals such as the native Australian daisy, which attracts butterflies with its bright yellow colour. Alternatively, scents also attract insects for pollination, an example being the bonnet orchid, which emits a chemical odour that attracts male wasps. In plants such as the bee-pollinated Callistemon, the nectar is produced deep in the base of the flower. When the bee enters to collect the nectar, pollen is dropped onto the bee in the exact spot where the stigma from another flower will pick it up. Many native Australian bush plants rely on other animals such as possums, small rodents, and bats for pollination. Specific adaptations may include large and colourful petals as seen in the native Australian waratah. The long and brightly coloured petals commonly attract nectar-feeding honey-eaters. These small animals, which rely on these nectar-feeding producing plants for their food source, burrow deep into the flower's base where the heavily producing nectaries are stored. The bird of paradise is an example of such an adaptation. In doing so, pollen that is often sticky or powdery is carried onto the body of the animal. The pollen is then transferred to other plants where the animal continues to obtain enough food from other plants of the same species. There are 5 major methods of seed dispersal: wind, animal, fire, water, and explosion. Seeds which are dispersed via wind, such as the hakea, may have winged seeds, or have an aerodynamic structure such as the melaleuca seed, allowing the seed to travel easily to the ground. Seeds that require animals for dispersal may have hooks to easily catch onto animal exterior, such as the birdlime tree, or seeds may be dispersed via animal's feces. When exposed to fire, the pods of plants such as the Eucalyptus and Banksia open, thus dispersing their seeds. Seed dispersal may occur in water over varied distances. Therefore, the seeds adapt by floating very easily, for example the water gums and mangroves. Lastly, explosion of pods may expel seedlings quickly, causing the seeds to land in different areas. This occurs in plants such as acacias. Suckers are an example of vegetative reproduction in which a new adult clone is formed. Some plants, such as the common reed, spread prolifically by sending suckers through the aquatic terrain, whereas wattles can lay down suckers after a fire. Others, such as dandelions, lay down suckers after damage to their root fragment. Runners may also be laid down by plants such as spinifex grass. These long, thin stems produce new leaves and roots at the nodes of the parent plants and break through the soil to produce clones. A less common form of asexual reproduction is budding, which involves the growth of a new plant as an outgrowth from the parent plant. The kalanchoe is one such example which produces buds along leaf margins. These can break off and form new plants, later developing into full adult size.